Welcome back to the channel, guys. Now in this video we are rebuilding our rear axle, so I'm not going to show you both sides, but we're going to do one side. If you haven't seen it already, I've done the front end rebuild, so you can go back and check that out. And one other thing, please subscribe if you've watched these and enjoying them. It helps the channel and you'll get more videos. Right, straight into it. Now, I've got all my studs, all my bolts, all my fasteners are all been re-zinced. So they're looking schmick. They got that corrosion protection on them. So the first thing you want to do after you disassembled it, if you are disassembling it and you've pulled the bearings off of the axle, you're going to want to put new ones in. Now these bearings are pretty well bulletproof. You'll get a long time out of them. But at this point, I had everything apart, so I'm like, well, now's the time to do it. Once it's apart, clean it up, and then you want to put, if you have pulled your studs off, you're going to want to get that dust cap or that dust protector, seal protector back on, push your studs back in, which I've got to do now, and then we can pretty well go straight into loading up the actual, the bearing. All right, first thing we need to do, guys, is grab your bearing housing and grab the old outer race that you pulled off. You can sort of twist that lip into there, and it acts as a nice way to tap it in. I'm going to put some grease around there just to help it slide in a bit nicer. Wipe that on your shorts. Now we just need to tap that around. And there we have it. That is home. We can now spin that over and drop onto our brake mount. Now I'm also going to put a bit of grease in here and also on this outer flange, outer lip. Okay, so I've actually probably should have put that seal on afterwards, but that's all right. We just have to adjust our press. Probably a better idea to leave that seal off and press this bearing in so you're not pressing down on that flange, but I'm just going to spread the bed of the press, so I'll show you in a second. But yeah, put a bit of grease in here. Just helps once again, just a thin film, doesn't need to be anything excessive. I'll cruise over there. Now bring over the old second-hand one. We'll need that as well. I just remove one of those. I'll show you why in a second, but yeah, we'll cruise over the press. Okay, so I'm just gonna put that in the press like that. Make sure it's sitting nicely. And we'll also put this bearing in. And then our old might have to lower the bed down. Okay, so we dropped it down a notch. Just get some form of packing. Make sure your bottom bearing is going to be in the right location. Flip him over, make sure it's home, which it is. Get your axle, thread your housing straight over top. Now it's going to want to sit up because that bearing is now in there. Put your next one in also. And now we need to go back to the press. So I probably should let you know before now, but a press is pretty well a necessity for this job. And also you'll need to make some form of tool to get the bearing nut out. So what I've done is I bought an impact socket. So it's 55 mil. I've cut it off, and on this end, I've kept it for the end of this. Now I've used a bit of like 1.5 inch pipe or something like that, 1 3/4. As long as it fits over your axle, and also as long as it's long enough, because there is a long and a short. And you can see here, I made this to the short one, so I added in a bit, but that's all good, it still works. But if you make it heavy duty enough, it also works, as you'll see in a minute, as a perfect pressing tool as well. So yeah, we'll cruise over. I'll just adjust the bed again. I've got to drop it right down to push this hub assembly on, bearing assembly on. Okay, so with the bed dropped right down, I've just got just enough height. Okay, it's a bit of a juggling act here, so this is what I've rigged up. This is our second-hand old bearing race, because you want to push on the outer race of the new one. And then I've got our homemade socket right up to there, so we can start pushing that bearing in now. So with that fully home, I'm going to remove this socket and remove that, because now the outer bearing race is home, but this inner bearing on this side isn't. So I basically hit this up with the die grinder in here. This is the inner race from the old bearing with all the rollers and cage gone. So now this slips over there, back on with our extended socket, and pump away. And there we have our bearing fully seated. So lock washer can only go in one way, slides into a little groove, that sits on there. Nut next, screw him down. Now this nut needs to be done up to between 440 and 490 newtons. It is very, very tight. So we screw that down, and then we go out to my little dummy tightening area. So this is what I'm running with. 3 ratchet straps around a tyre, upside down on the front of my trailer. And then sit your axle in there. Torque wrench, 440 to 490. We'll get that done, and then we'll install it. Okay, now that is torqued up, we just need to bend this locking tab. Now you should be using a new one apparently every time. I'm not, I'm using the same one. So I'm just using the flathead. Get that fold started. Now when that started, I was grabbing my Nipex just to pinch that up to the nut. Something like that. With all that done, now there's an O-ring and a seal. So your inner seal, I've already done that. It's pretty straightforward. Push that in, and then there's an O-ring that's already on here. I've also put a bit of grease around the outside, just so that slides on nice. And yeah, same as the front housing. You don't want to really rest too much weight on that inner seal. So slide your axle in, supporting it. just need to wriggle it around till you locate it in the center. You get a soft-faced hammer, dead blow or something. And she's home. So the 6 nuts and spring washers on the back. For some reason I've only got 6. I need some more spring washers, so I've only got 3. So I'll just do the 3 up that I do have. We want them at about 54 to 64, I think it said. So we'll just go 60. Torque all them up. Next thing is our brake disc shroud, I guess. They are the 3 Phillips head. Bolts. All new rotors. These are Bendix Ultimate rotors. Sexy bit of kit. So you got a hole there. Line that up with the extra, looks to be like a stud hole. Sit him on there. And now we put our disc, our caliper on. That'll hold our disc on there a bit nicer. So I couldn't actually find the torque spec for the calipers, but I'm just going to use the same as the front, which is 64 to 73. Torque them up. And we'll put our brake line on. Copper washer. So Bendix, these are Bendix lines. So Bendix supply, in their ultimate full drive upgrade kit, they supply the rotors, the pads, the lines, depending on your lift, copper washers, even the little clips for this kit. So stoked with that, which makes a one-stop shop really. Make sure your banjo bolts facing, or like the end of your brake line's facing in that groove. I'll show you in a second. There you have it. Pretty well slap a couple wheels on, bleed the brakes if you disconnected them, and you're on your merry way. Hopefully that helped you guys. Subscribe, comment, let me know whatever I did wrong. Good luck.